What's going on, everyone? This is Jacob Amaral here. In today's video, we are on part 4 of our Interactive Brokers trading bot using Python. In the last video of part 3, I said I was going to pick the most voted comment on which strategy we should code, and I've picked one. It is from Javier. Let me know if I butchered that, but I think that's how you say it, Javier. And he says, strategy, buy when price breaks a triangle formation up. Example, lower highs and higher lows, and also breaks the 50 simple moving average. So we're going to build that today in this part 4 of the Interactive Brokers series. So let's get started. So my GitHub will be linked below in the description and in the comments, so you can actually view the code yourself. But here's where we left off at part 3. And this was basically a simple enter the symbol you want to trade and then the order, submitting that order. Okay, so to do this strategy of the triangle formation up, we'll need two main foundation blocks, and that's going to be the 50 moving average and the saving or the lower highs and higher lows. So first, let's start let's start off with what libraries we need, what packages. So I don't know why we have that there, but we're going to need a couple things. So the biggest thing we're going to need is the TA lib. Okay, so TA is a library for technical analysis and for basically any financial asset, including like the SMA, RSI, stuff like that. So import TA, we're going to need that. And then to use TA, we also need what's called NumPy. And this is a library to help with data series and stuff like that. As NP, we'll also need pandas, which is another very powerful library when it comes to data series and arrays. Import pandas as PD. And we're also going to do PyTZ, and this is a time zone library to help us with converting time zones. Did I spell that wrong? As NP. Maybe I need to save it. I don't know why it's highlighting green. We should be fine though. Okay, so that's that. Let's import also math. We're gonna be doing some rounding and some math operations. There we go. Now it's fine. Is there anything else we need here? I think and then let's import date time as well. I think that's the last package we need. Okay, so those should be our imports. Those should be good. And then our variables, we're going to need one, and it's going to be the order ID. So with Interactive Brokers, every time you submit any request, but anytime you submit an order request, you need to pass an ID with it, and that ID will help link with buy and sell orders. Now, if you're submitting new orders, every ID needs to be unique. So we're going to store it as a global variable here. Okay. Okay, so now in our Interactive Brokers connection class, we use the real-time bar override to handle streaming data. We're actually not going to use this anymore as there is another solution. But to start off, I'll get to that in a minute. So first off, when we run our strategy, we want to do a small, I guess, sort of a back test to kind of catch up. Say you start the bot at noon or, an hour after market opens, it kind of needs to catch up. So we need historical data. So we're going to make a new override function called historical data. And that passes in a request ID and the actual bar. And then we are going to pass that into our onBar update. So bot.onBarUpdate. We're going to pass in the request ID, the bar, and false. Okay. And then we're also going to try catch it just to be safe if there's any errors. We want to see what's going on. Print E. Okay, perfect. So that's good. Now here is kind of where our update's happening. So you can, with interactive brokers, you can request historical data. And then once that request finishes, there's actually a Boolean that you can trigger to true. And if it's triggered to true, it will start streaming after that historical backtest finishes, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to make another function here called historical data update. And this is going to replace real-time bar. Now I'll leave the real-time bar function here, but this will replace it. I'll add some comments too. On real-time bar after historical data finishes. So same thing, pretty much. I'm just going to copy and paste from historical data, try onbar update, and this is going to be true because we need to differentiate between what's real time and what's not. And we'll update onbar update too. I'm just kind of going top down. Okay, so that's good. And then we'll also need on historical data end. I guess we don't need this, but just good to know. So this is when the historical data finishes. And self. It has a start and end time. And we're just going to print the request ID to see what request we're making. Okay, so that's good to go. Now, the next thing we need to do is to get our valid order ID. So every night at midnight, interactive brokers will reset your order ID back to, I guess, 0 or 1. I'm not sure. So anytime you start the bot, you need to know which order ID you can use next. Say you used order ID 2, right? Say it submits some orders and you use order ID 2. If you try and submit another order that same day with that order ID of 2, the order will fail. So you need to know which next order ID we can use. And there's actually a function built into IB called next valid ID, which will actually get the next order ID that you can use. So get next order ID we can use. So we'll do definition next valid ID, and as a next order ID. Okay. And what we'll do is when this is called, we'll update our global order ID. Perfect. And then we're going to call this when the function runs. All right. That is all for the IB API class. That should be good. So let's go back to our bot. So we're going to create another class called a bar, right? And this bar object will handle our bar data that's coming in from interactive brokers. Just so we have kind of a neater way of what a bar looks like. So a bar object is going to have an open price, a low, of course, a high, a close, volume. I did not spell that right. A date. And then we'll also set the init function that will set these functions as well. So let's do, we don't need it formatted like this. We'll just pass in the self object. I don't need to return super. I just want to set these when we instantiate it. So reset everything to back to its defaults. Probably don't need to do this, but we're just being extra safe here. Self.close is equal to 0. Volume. and the date. And there we go. There's our bar class. Awesome. All right, so let's hop on down to our bot logic here. We're gonna need a couple new variables. First, we're gonna need a bar size. What bar size are we trading? Is it 1 minute, 60 minute, 30 minute, stuff like that. So we'll say the default is 1 minute. Our current bar that we're looking at, I wanna store that, and that'll be equal to a new bar object. The current request ID, which will be 1, but obviously it's going to be updated using next valid ID. The global order ID variable that we were using are, now according to the strategy, we're using an SMA of 50. So we'll say SMA period is equal to 50. And then the symbol we're trading is going to be a blank. Okay. And lastly, our initial bar time. So we need to, when we start the bot, we need to know what was the first bar that time. Okay, so it's going to be datetime.now. And then let's just convert it to Eastern time zone. That way we're in everyone's in the same time zone from wherever we get the data from. And we're going to do America / New York. All right, perfect. So now let's go into our init here. It's pretty much all the same. The only difference we're doing is we're gonna instantiate our new current bar. And then we are going to set symbol. Now we're gonna use self.symbol because it's a class member. And we want to know, instead of, yeah, that should be all good. Now we want to set the bar size. So self.bar size is equal to, will be an input. Enter the bar size you want to trade in minutes. So if you want to trade 1 minute, 60 minute, that sort of thing. And then we're going to set some text up. So when we request the data, it's all formatted correctly. So by default, if it's minute, and then we'll say if the bar size is greater than 1, the min text will be equal to mins. All right, just so we set it up. So if it's 1, it's just going to be 1 min, but if it's greater than 1, then it's mins with an S at the end of it. Now we're going to request the historical data and then start streaming real time. Okay, so let's create a, first we're going to get a query time. And this is the request we're making. We'll make a request for the last day, right? So we'll say, all right, today, datetime.now, not data time, datetime.now. Subtract, we're going to subtract 1 day. So we're going to use time delta 1 day. And then we're going to get the end of the market hour. So we're going to replace hour 16, which is 4 p.m. Eastern. Minute is equal to 0. Second is equal to 0. And microsecond is equal to 0. And then we're going to format it so we can send that to IB correctly using their format time. And that looks like %y, %m. And this is so, it has to be formatted correctly so IB can read it. %h, %m for the minute, and %s That should be good. Just double checking I have correct place. And we should also, just to be safe, put this in Eastern time zone. So daytime.now as time zone, America, New York. That forces it. Perfect. Should be good. 3 times great. All right. So now we have our contract that we set, and that's set to the symbol that we enter, which is here, enter symbol to trade. So that's good to go. So the thing that's changing right here, this line is changing. So we are not calling real-time bars anymore. Instead, we're going to call self.ib.request historical data. And this will stream real-time data as well. It does both. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So we'll pass in our request ID, our contract. Next parameter is the bar size, which we don't care about. The duration, so we want to get at least 2 days, so we kind of catch up where we're at. And then our bar size. Plus our min text. So bar size will be like, say, 1 or 60 or 30, and then either min or mins. We want to get the trades. And then we're going to use real-time hours and keep up to date as well. And keep up to date is what is the magic key, what kind of starts streaming real-time data after that. And then we don't have any chart options, so that's just empty. So that's the biggest change from last part of this series, where we used real-time bars. Now we're requesting the data. Once that finishes, with this keep up to date true setting, it will start streaming once the historical bar finishes. Okay, so that's all good to go. Let's take out, yeah, I have 2 contract objects here. My apologies for that. I don't know why. Someone did mention that. And then we will take out the orders. We're not submitting an order now because we have logic. We actually have to run the bot logic to submit an order. So that'll end there. Okay, so that's good. So now we are going to update on bar update here. And on bar update, the parameters are changing. So now we're just going to have self request ID. Where request is coming through, the bar object, and then if we are real time or not. Okay, so, oops. So first we're going to say historical data to catch up. So if we're getting historical data, we can just append to our bars. So if real time is equal to false, that means we're back testing. We're getting historical data. We'll append a bar to our bars array. Now, bars. Sorry, I forgot to add that as a variable. So we need a bars array of our current bars, what we're looking at. Okay. So sorry, so I added that line 70 here. We've added bars. I'll zoom in a little bit. Bars array here. If real time is equal to false, we want to append each new bar to that bars array. So that's good. So else, if we're else, now it's real time. We're streaming real time now. So we're going to set a bar time variable to see where we're at. We're going to get the bar.date and then format it, which is this same formatting here. I'll just copy and paste it. format it, and get it to the Eastern time zone, so we're all in the same time zone. And I chose New York because that's where Wall Street is, right? In New York. So we'll use that. Okay. Now we'll need another variable called minutes diff, and this will get the difference in minutes from when we started to the current bar. So we know where we're at. So it's going to take bar time minus our initial bar time, which is when we launch the program. We set initial bar time here, which will run as soon as the bot class is instantiated. And this allows us to know when the next bar closes. So get the difference in total seconds divided by 60. Perfect. Okay. So now we want to perform logic when the bar closes. So on bar close. So we'll say, all right, if the minutes of difference is greater than 0, so it's been more than at least 1 second since the program has started running, and we're going to round down the minutes diff. If the current difference in minutes is divisible by our bar size, that means 1 full bar is completed. So let me try and make this simple. So if our bar size is 1 minute, then the difference in seconds or in minutes technically needs to be divisible by 1, right? And if it's divisible by 1 using the modulus operator, that means the bar is closed. If bar size was 60, we would need to wait 60 minutes before the bar closes. Okay. So this if statement ensures that the full duration for that bar is closed, and we're good to perform logic. Okay. There's other ways of performing logic. You could perform when the price changes or on tick, but we're going to do on bar close. Okay. So now we're going to do the entry. So if we have a higher high, a higher low, and we cross the 50 simple moving average, buy. Okay. So step number 1, let's calculate the SMA, simple moving average. We're going to make a new array called closes. And then we'll loop through our bars array for entry in self.bars, closes.append, entry.close. And let's use the word bar, not entry. Doesn't make really sense. Bar.close. Okay, perfect. Okay. Then we're going to make a panda series array. And this is just formatted a little bit different. And that's what our TA, our technical analysis library, uses. It needs to use pandas. So we're going to convert it to a panda series. NumPy as array closes. Perfect. And then we'll calculate our simple moving average. Self.sma is equal to ta.trend.sma. We'll pass in our close array. And then we'll set our SMA period. And we'll fill zeros as well. And then if you want, you can print the current SMA. So we'll do SMA. So you can take a look at it. It is a series, so you need to self.sma at len self SMA -1. That'll print the most recent simple moving average. All right, so that's step 1, calculating the SMA. Step 2, we want to calculate the higher highs and higher lows. Calculate higher highs and lows. Okay, so we're going to make 4 variables. We're going to call last low is equal to our bars, self.bars at length. So the most recent low. I'll need the last close and high and bar as well. So we'll do last high, and then the last close as well. And then we'll also save the last bar as well if we want to reuse it in the future. So the most recent bar is self.bars length -1. All right. Okay. And now let's check criteria. So if the current bar, if bar.close is greater than oh, I forgot something up here. Sorry, we'll pause there. Forgot to add the current date. So self.currentBar.date is equal to bar time. So I just added that up there, line 112. We need to set the current date. Okay, so that's good. So if bar.close is greater than last high, and the current bar dot low is greater than last low, so you had a higher low and a higher high, and the close of the bar is greater than the current SMA, so self dot, it would be this again. Just copy and paste this. So the current close is greater than the current SMA, and the last close, so if it crossed over, if the last close was less than 1 SMA ago, so we do -2. So it's crossed over the SMA. So you've had a higher high and a higher low. Then we are good to enter. And what we'll do is we'll do a bracket order of a 2% profit target and a 1% stop loss. Profit target, 1% stop loss. Okay. Oh, did I miss a parentheses here? I think I did, yeah. Need one more. There we go. All right, so the profit target is equal to the bar.close multiplied by 1.02, which is 2%. And the stop loss is equal to the bar.close. It's 1%, so we just multiply 0.99. And then we're going to create a bracket order, meaning only one of them can be filled. If one's filled, the other order is canceled, essentially. So we would do bracket is equal to, we'll make a bracket order method, self.bracket order. And then we will use a okay, so we need an order ID variable, which I forgot to use. Actually, no, we have our order ID. It should be order ID. We might need our current global order ID here. Okay, so what we'll do is should be able to. So we'll pass in our global order ID into our on bar update, and we'll use that. We're gonna submit a buy order, quantity, and our profit target and stop loss. Now our quantity, I guess we'll just set for 1 share for now. You can edit that if you want to. So we'll do that. Now let's create our bracket order class, or sorry, method. So let's go up here and make a new bracket order setup. So bracket order, it's going to have the parent order ID, the action, is it a buy or sell, the quantity, it's going to need a profit target and a stop loss. All right, so initial entry, so we'll create a new contract. Do we have a contract example up here? Yeah, we do. And it's going to be self. And I think we have to change that here to self.symbol. Make sure to change that back to self because it's a class member. Okay. Create our initial entry contract. And then create the parent order. Initial entry. So we're going to have a new order object. Well, let's call it parent, not order. Call it parent.order ID. Order type, we'll just do a simple market order, which will buy at the current market price. The action, whether it's a buy or sell, is equal to action, the one that we pass in. The quantity. And then we have to set transmit to false because we want to transmit it as a bracket order where we have a parent and then a stop loss and a profit target attached to it. So we're going to set transmit is equal to false. And then now we'll do our profit target order. Let's just copy this. And then we'll rename parent to, rename parent to profit target. Selection, yeah. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Let's do that. So we'll rename that. Profit target order. And its order ID is just going to be the parent dot order ID +1. Needs to be unique. And then the action, the order type is going to be a limit order because we want to use the profit target. And then the action is going to be a sell. And we'll need a limit price. So profit target dot the limit price is equal to, we'll round our profit target to 2. And then we need the stop loss. So copy that, paste it, This is our stop loss order. I'll rename this to stop loss. All right. Replace. The limit price will be the stop loss. Yep. Now, might want to rename it. Yeah. This needs to be order. This can't be the same name as the parameter. Order, order, order. Stop loss, order. There we go. Now we're not confusing it. All right. So, now we're going to change a stop loss to a stop order, not a limit order, because that would immediately sell it. So we'll change it to a stop order. And instead of limit price, we're going to use dot auxiliary price, AUX price, to go to round stop loss. Okay. Transmits false. Okay. Now we'll create a bracket orders array, which will consist of the parent initial entry, the profit target order, and the stop loss order. And then we'll return it. Return bracket orders. And now we should be good. We set bracket is equal to self.bracket order. I'll make sure these match up. Yep. All right, we have our quantity, our profit target, and our stop loss. Awesome. Okay. So we set that. Now let's place the bracket order. So for order in bracket, we're going to set the OCA group, which is one cancels all. So we want either the stop loss or the profit target to cancel the other, so they both don't run if one fails. So we'll just call it OCA underscore, and then the, I guess we'll do the order ID. And then we'll set the OCA type to 2, which I believe is the normal type of bracket order where it cancels the other order. And then we'll place our order, self.ib.placeOrder, o.order ID, the contract, and the order. Okay. I guess we'll also need this contract as well. Actually, no, we should be able to say o.contract, right? o.contract. That doesn't work, eh? Okay. There's no code completion. So maybe that contract there is not needed. We'll just create a new contract object here, which that should handle. Okay. And then let's increase our current order ID by 3 because we're submitting 3 different orders: the parent, stop loss, and profit target. Okay, so that's the logic for that. And then there's one last step. We have to, because this is in real time, we have to update the current bar. So we're going to set the current bar close to the bar.close. And then we say if the date does not equal last bar dot date. Oops. We have a new bar. And we will append the current bar. Self.bars.append self.current bar. Then we'll set the open price as well. And that should be on the same line as check criteria. Yep, that looks good. So that'll handle the open and close. Let's build the real-time bar. Build the real-time bar. And this goes outside of that. Even outside the else. Okay. So if the current bar dot open is equal to 0, bar dot open, if the self dot current bar dot high is equal to 0, or bar dot high is greater than self dot current bar dot high, we will set the high. And then we'll do the same for the low pretty much. And if the bar dot low is less than the current bar low, then we'll set the low. Okay, that should be good. And I also wanted to set the order ID to the current order ID. So by default, we set order ID to 1. In next valid ID, when this is called, we set order ID is equal to the next available one. So when we launch the bot, we'll do self.ib.request IDs, and we'll pass a -1 here just to get the latest one. And request IDs we'll call next valid ID, which will update the global order ID. Okay. And then we increase order ID by 3 every bracket order. All right, I'm just trying to make sure we have everything. Let's do a small test run here. So that. All right, so one change we had to make, sorry, I had a lowercase f here. So the false on historical update needs to be uppercase F. And then also on our bracket order, the stop loss order needs to be set to true to transmit. Only need to do that one. And the stop loss order ID needs to be plus is equal to 2. So they're all unique. So those are 2 changes. So line 131, stop loss order ID needs to be plus 2. Transmit is equal needs to be true. And then I had a lowercase f here on historical data on bar update. So make sure it's capital F. All right, so that should be good. All right, and the market's closed today. It is Saturday, so I will be running this. I was testing it over the weekend. It was working fine, but I'll be testing it more on Monday as well to make sure it works for you. So once again, all this code is going to be available on GitHub below in the description and in the comments. I hope you guys found value, and hopefully this strategy works for a bit. It makes you some profit, or at least you kind of have the knowledge of creating your own strategy from scratch for interactive brokers using Python. So anyways, that's it, guys. We will see you next week for some more videos. Peace out.